for the better. So today we are going to be connected with a wonderful soul who is connected with men's mental health and focusing on men's rights. And hence the International Men's Day has been come into force in the year 1999 with the efforts of none other than Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh. He's here with us. He's going to share the journey with us as to why he has focused on International Men's Day. Usually we focus on Women's Day and all the other days, but yes, men have to receive their due. Many of the men are suppressed or they're dehumanized by their partners or maybe their family members. It's time to protect all genders. And today I'm really proud to have Sir with us to share the journey with us, what empowered him and made him do what he is doing today, and how far is he taking his journey, what are the various projects he's working on. We'll get to know more about it on this platform called as the International Fab Talks. Let's welcome our celebrity guest. He is none other than Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh, joining us all the way from the Caribbean islands, that is from Trinidad, Tobago, West Indies. So hello, sir, and welcome to the session. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, I'm very glad to be here. I'm very honored to be here. I just want to say that International Men's Day has been a difficult, a long journey. It has produced some results. And I've learned so much along the way. Since 1999, I've met a lot of men, young men, old men, elderly men, and they all tell me that they're so happy to have a day because they feel that the world has neglected them. They feel marginalized, alienated. They don't feel recognized. You know, we have not just International Women's Day, we have Mother's Day, we have Children's Day, and we have no day for boys or men. So I have met many men, and I mean, they go through therapy. They have so much to tell me at seminars, conferences, workshops. There's so much trauma. There's nowhere to turn. You know, sometimes they are abused. They go to the police station and the police laugh at them. Sometimes in classrooms, boys are bullied, and this affects them later in manhood. They don't have freedom in a marriage often to express emotions, freedom at the workplace. They don't have that freedom. So I think that I've realized for the National Men's Day that one of the issues is the lack of freedom of men to express their emotions, express their feelings. Sometimes men are afraid to cry during a funeral or a happy occasion because it might make them look feminine or weak. Sometimes they might not want to express anger because we always hear about toxic masculinity. So I've been telling men it's important to express your feelings because sometimes these men keep these emotions pent up and it affects their mental health. It creates depression. It makes them suicidal. You know, it affects their sleep. So I think one of the goals of International Men's Day is for men to become holistic, to, you know, express their freedom, express themselves.
Thank you, Dr. Jerome. Thank you for sharing that. My dear friends, I go ahead and share the profile of our guest and we begin the journey. So I go ahead and share your profile briefly and we begin the journey, sir. So dear friends, as I earlier mentioned, we have with us Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh. He's joining us all the way from the Caribbean islands, if I'm putting that right. And he is the founder of the International Men's Day. And he's a leading men's rights activist. He's a senior lecturer at the University of the West Indies in Trinidad and Tobago, that is in the Caribbean, that is in West Indies. We'll get to know more about his journey. He's a researcher, he's a writer, and he's been focusing on building beautiful bonds across the globe. He's a renowned scholar as well, an educator in folklore and cultural studies. He earned his PhD in folklore from the University of Pennsylvania in the year 1995. And since then, he has made significant contribution in various fields, focusing mainly on the study of the Caribbean folklore, religion, and popular culture. International Men's Day was actually conceived in the early 90s, to put it right. And there was a particular individual called as Thomas Oaster, an American men's rights activist. Actually, it was the seed of this beautiful day was germinated in the early 90s, but it was Dr. Jerome who took it further ahead, and he has changed that concept and made it global. So we have to be thankful to both to Thomas Oaster as well as to Dr. Jerome Teelucksingh, for making men feel appreciated, allowing men to be heard and not always finding fault with men. It's a big mistake always happening around the world. When you get to see the torture that men endure by their partners, or it could be by their own children, it's really shocking. And they are stereotyped men. But when you see and have witnesses, or you when you have proof and evidence that men too are tortured in various ways, young boys are tortured in various ways, then it's quite shocking. You can't believe it. But you have to believe the truth that yes, men are molested, they are cheated, they are tortured, and they're harassed in different ways. And that is why Dr. Jerome has stood up for men and made it compulsory to have a specific day, that is International Men's Day.
November the 19th.
November 19th.
Yeah.
So it is celebrated on November 19th every year. So let's begin this journey of understanding the International Men's Day, this journey of getting to know how to protect our men. It could be our fathers, our brothers, our male friends, our male colleagues. It could be all of them. And in fact, in my personal view, I feel Men's Day should be celebrated every day. Women's Day should be celebrated every day. That is, we respect one another, and that's how we maintain peace. Every day should be a celebration. Now let's begin the journey and celebrate Dr. Jerome over here on the International Family Talks, his work, and of course the various projects he has on hand. We've heard you're even connected with the young boys. I mean, like,
Correct.
you have a special project connected with young boys. If you can just share that with us at the start, and then we go on with the next.
Yeah. Well, over the years since I started International Men's Day, I started to realize that many of the problems that adult men face, it's because of trauma they faced during childhood, during teenage years. They were bullied at school, physical violence, emotional violence. Maybe their parents separated or divorced, and it affected them. So a lot of times these boys went through a lot of trauma, and it was unresolved, and they continued into adulthood. So I realized that the United Nations don't just focus on men, they also do not focus on boys. And I checked the calendar, and there's no special day on the calendar for boys. And I realized that, yes, we have a Children's Day, but we also have an International Day of the Girl Child. So I felt we needed to have an International Day for the boys. And I chose the 16th of May. It's my mom's birthday, and I decided I'll dedicate the day to her because she raised me and my brother so well. I have a sister also, and she did not discriminate. She didn't say, well, I'm going to treat the boys better than the girl or the girl better than the boys. And I wanted to also, let other people see that to raise a boy, you don't just need a father. You don't just need a positive male role model. You also need the influence of the mother. The mother comes with something. She comes with maybe nurturing, emotional difference that will help the boy become holistic. Because a lot of times we just believe boys need to be rough, they need to be tough, they need to grow up to be, weapons and serve in the army and serve in certain jobs. But a lot of times that put pressure on the boys. Sometimes a boy might want to be a cook. A boy might want to be a hairdresser. A boy might want to act in the movies like maybe Shah Rukh Khan, and he gets pressure. His parents will say, no, I want you to be a doctor, I want you to be a lawyer, or I want you to be an engineer. So we have these pressures put on our boys. And I think we need to allow our boys to be free. Do you want to be an artist, a plumber, a mason, an electrician? They're free to do that. So I think what I've realized is that I started World Day of the Boy Child. It's also called International Boys Day or International Day of the Boy Child. I wanted to focus on proper development of the boys, how we could train our boys to be better men. It's difficult to change a man. He has all this socialization, he has all these processes occurring, but as a boy, we could mold them, we could nurture them better, we could guide them better. So I think it is essential that, and this day just started a few years ago in 2018. The theme or topic this year is building self-esteem. building self-esteem in our boys, and it'll be celebrated in 34 countries this year. Some groups in India will also be celebrating it. So I'm very glad to see, that the project is slowly gaining some traction and gaining popularity.
Hats off to you, because I really like the way when you shared this, to teach our young boys to become better men tomorrow, right? You can mold
Yeah.
them when they are young. You cannot change them or try to transform them once they are adults. It's quite difficult. There may be a transformation in them, but it's a bit difficult. It's always easier to mold them when they are young, to train them to be mature adults. That's really nice.
Yeah.
I really like the way you put that. And I would love all of them to understand the real meaning of bringing up children. Only when you can afford to bring them up in the right way, please give birth to them. Just do not give birth to them and leave them just to grow up just like that on their own, or hand them over to somebody else, or neglect them and concentrate only on your professional journey or your personal journey. It's time that we focus on our children who we give birth to. Not only our own children, it could be children who don't belong to our own family. It could be children who belong to others as well. It could be an orphan as well. It's time to take care of all children. Now, sir, you've picked up this beautiful date, May 16th, right? That's really
Correct.
nice. You're giving great credit to your mom, and you really speak so high of her. You spoke just so highly of her that she brought up two gentlemen. That's really nice, including your sister. There weren't any discriminations. That's really nice. Now, I'd like to ask you, personally in your life, when you were a young boy, did you face any kind of discrimination, or did you face any kind of bullying or something during your own journey as a youngster?
Yes, when I was in primary school, 9 years, 10 years, I was bullied because I was studious. I wanted to do my work, academic. And the other boys wanted to be playful. They wanted to play cricket, they wanted to play football, and they didn't see the need for studies, and I sort of valued education. My parents taught me the importance of education to move up in society, social mobility. So a few of the boys, were sometimes given nicknames, sometimes they were bullied, teased at. Also, my teachers in my primary school and secondary school, they would regularly beat us with whips, beat us with rulers. Sometimes they slap us, so that we experience a lot of physical violence from our teachers. And I mean, discipline is important in the classroom. It is important in the classroom, but I think the teachers, they verbally abused us, insulted us, humiliated many of my friends, including myself. And that physical violence made me realize that when I get bigger, when I become adult, I want to eliminate violence from my life. I want to try to eliminate violence from the rest of the world, because I saw the disastrous effects. Many of my friends, they dropped out of school after primary school. They did not want to go to secondary school or university. A lot of them develop a hate for education, a hate for teaching, a hate for teachers, because of this cruel form of punishment. And I've realized through my research that across the globe, many teachers continue to use verbal and physical violence in the classroom, and governments are not enforcing laws. There are no penalties for this. So in the classroom, there's a lot of violence occurring. And sometimes when we think of violence, we think about a war like Russia and Ukraine or in the Middle East. But there's a lot of violence occurring in the classroom. There's a lot of violence occurring in the home. Many parents believe that because they produce these children, they could shout at these children and slap these children. Sometimes they burn these children with a hot pot or a spoon, hit them with a stick. So a lot of times parents are at fault. They believe that nobody could tell them what to do. These are their children. And it's so sad, because sometimes children emerge into adults, boys emerge into adults, and they face violence at home and school. Home and school should be your safe spaces, right? If the community can be a safe space, the home and school should be a place where you are learning, but you are happy. And many boys are feeling very unhappy in the home or the school, and sometimes in both places. And it's very difficult to try to change the world, because it's entrenched. It's in the mindset and psyche that discipline is important, and the form of discipline, I think, has a debilitating, disastrous effect on the mind and the soul of many of these boys.
Thank you, Dr. Jerome, for sharing that. And that holds truth. You know, when you share all of that, I could really resonate with what you're sharing. I could understand what you're sharing, because my own brother was treated very badly in his class. When he was just in fourth class, the teacher took the duster and threw it on him. Because he was talking to his neighbor, I guess, and then it hurt his ears, and his ears was swollen. His entire cheek was swollen. And so when we questioned the teacher, why did she do it? Then that's what she said, that the child was talking.
Right.
And from that day onwards, my brother never ever felt interested or showed any interest in studies till date. I feel very sad for that. And nevertheless, he passed his 10th class, matriculation, he's completed it, but still he is not like, having that interest and that zeal for studies. I feel very bad, because I know it's the mistake of the teacher. She should have been a little more polite, little more humble, because we were facing our own problems at home. Our parents were separated, and so we were going through a very tough time, and it takes a toll on male children when their parents are separated or something like that.
Yeah.
I get to understand that why you have taken this much of courage to go forward and do what you're doing today. So
Yeah.
now we'll talk about the family system. Now, in the family system, parents, it could be either of the parents. I am not gender biased over here. It could be either of the parents who destroy the lives of their own children, like constantly fighting in front of their children for XYZ reasons. And the fight is not once a week or once a month. It's a daily routine. And especially if that family is facing alcoholism by either of their parents, if one of the parents is into alcohol, it is more traumatic and more painful. Now, what is the message to all those parents who are under the influence of alcohol and destroying the peace and tranquility in their own homes?
I think it's a very important point you raised, in that alcohol has been abused. It's a vice. It's one of the vices. I think that across the world, it doesn't just affect the behavior of adults, but it causes internal problems. It causes cancer, it causes diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol. So there's something bad about alcohol. Yes, alcohol is important as an ingredient for medicine and other products. Some people use it in a cake, something when they're baking. But I think that a lot of men and women, especially men, abuse alcohol. Here in the Caribbean, we have many rum shops, places, bars, like in England and Europe, bars and rum shops where men go and they drink, they waste their money. Money that should be spent on groceries, money should be spent on school books for the students, or the home, or food. They waste this money on alcohol. So I think it's a problem that is global. It's one of the problems that I'm finding difficult to deal with, because many men are social drinkers. They would go to a function and have one or two drinks and they say, nothing is wrong with me. But there are also the majority of men who, because of alcohol, it affects the family home. They die in car accidents. It affects their body. They die prematurely because of the alcohol. So I think it's something that governments have to have a campaign. Just as we have a global campaign for HIV and AIDS, and we have a campaign for other problems, we need to have a constant campaign about this alcohol. And cigarettes too, I've noticed that a lot of men are also smoking. It's a kind of macho image. It wants the man to be strong. It's part of his virility. It's part of his image. If he's smoking, if he's drinking, he wants to be cool. He wants to be hip. He wants to have friends. And many of the advertisements, I think the media is to blame for sending the wrong messages. Television, radio, sometimes billboards. You're driving on the highway and you see so many billboards advertising alcohol or cigarettes, and you see the man is happy. Sometimes he has many women, he has a nice car. So they have a nice deceptive way, these messages, these commercials, to advertise the alcohol, advertise the cigarettes. And I've also realized that the media has a very important role to create good boys and good men. The media doesn't realize their potential. And the media also has to pay attention, not just to advertising alcohol, but also the amount of violence that is shown. Violence, murder, crime. Sometimes we show men involved in these violent acts. We show men involved in these murders, kidnappings. So the media often stigmatize, stereotype men as being aggressive, as being involved in crime. Sometimes they glorify crime. So I think that the media companies also have to remember that once they bombard young minds with crime, it makes crime appear as an outlet, as a sort of occupation, a future job for young boys. You know, sometimes they want to grow up to be a bandit, a robber, a criminal. And you know, it is something happening in all areas, not just in Asia, you know, where the media has an important role in the Asia, the West, everywhere, to try to portray more positive male role models. We're not seeing those positive male role models. Where the men who do volunteer work? Where the men who donate blood? Where the men who are taking care of a dying child, you know, a dying wife, you know? So I think we need to, the media has a greater role to play to help the boys, to help the men, and they're not doing that.
Thank you, Dr. Jerome, for sharing that. Thank you very much. I'd like to share a case study with you. A client of mine shared with me that her son, who is in his early 20s, mid 20s, you could say, questioned her. Why did you not leave your abusive marriage and move away? Why did you overstay in that marriage where you were suffering and you made us suffer at the hands of our father? So this young gentleman, who was in his mid-20s, questions the mother, why did you not leave the abusive marriage? You should have left the marriage. You should have taken your children and stayed alone, and you should have rebuilt your life. The mother was at a loss of words. She could not explain anything to that child, to her son. Now, how would you like to explain it from your perspective? When a young man like this questions his mother, what is, like, she has no answer, and like, what is your opinion on this? Because you've been seeing all of this. Now here there is an erring adult, and here is a young gentleman wanting to, you know, resolve a traumatic issue of his childhood.
Yeah, it is something I've seen for more than 2 decades. For more than 20 years, I've met these cases, I've met these persons, and I've realized that often women stay in an abusive relationship or a bad relationship for the sake of their children. And sometimes she might endure abuse or hurt. She might endure humiliation, insults, because she knows that the family unit is important. From ancient times, ancient India, ancient Africa, right? Anywhere, the family unit is the basic unit of any society and community. And the mother realizes this. Sometimes the father endures abuse because he doesn't want his daughter or his son to be at a loss and not have a male role model, a proper male figure. If a stepfather or a stepmother comes in a relationship, they sometimes don't care about the child or the children, and they are very abusive. So I think that um, the young man is right to question, because it appears, theoretically, it appears easy and nice to say walk away from a relationship. But sometimes, you know, a parent or a spouse stays because they realize that, you know, it will affect that young child. Now, what I've realized, sometimes when the child or the children become adults, separation or divorce occurs because the parent realizes that the child is mature enough. You know, it's adult now. It's no longer that clinging on or that need for nurturing. So that sometimes parents endure it for a few years until that child has a job or that child has become a man or a woman. So I think we also need to bear that in mind, that sometimes people take their marriage vows seriously. Sometimes they look at the religious scriptures and say, you know what, this is a relationship that God has put together, a bond. So we have many reasons why people stay in these relationships. It could be cultural and it could be religious.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Jerome. You shared that very, very strongly. I would like you to give a message to young men like this young man who I just shared now with you, a message to all the young men and women as well, to accept their parents and to move on, not to have grudges, because what has been done can't be undone now. The only thing that you need to do is to move forward and go ahead in your life. You don't be what you've experienced. Don't repeat the cycle of abuse or pain.
Yeah.
You can transform your family and create a beautiful family. So I would
Yeah.
like you to give a message from your end, please.
I believe that young men and women, need to stop judging the past generation, their parents, so harshly, because every generation has to build their own life. And we are seeing the changes occurring so quickly with technology. We have AI now. 50 years ago, 100 years ago, we didn't have all this technology with cell phones and internet. So that the parents are at a disadvantage when the children judge them in the present times, and they need to realize this. And I'll tell you something which is very interesting. In the Caribbean, we get a lot of movies from India. I grew up watching Amitabh Bachchan, Shashi Kapoor, the Kapoor family. And later on, of course, I saw the Shah Rukh Khan movies, and my parents saw him and Nalini and all these other screen stars in black and white, black and white, and I saw them in color. And many of these movies from your country, India, dealt with family values, and it influenced many persons of Indian descent, not just in my country, Trinidad and Tobago, but wherever they had persons of Indian descent, Guyana, in Africa, Fiji, Malaysia, wherever Indians went, they held on to those values in the Indian films, the Indian movies. We enjoyed the songs. The songs were nice, but the message in those movies, often at the ending, was one of forgiveness. The father would come back after so many years and he would go to touch the mother's feet, beg for forgiveness. The son who left the home or the daughter would come back and touch the mother's feet and cry. There was so much emotion. And I think that is sometimes absent from the modern day family. And what I would want some of these younger people to do if they have the time to go back and watch some of these old movies, those old films with so much values, where the family unit is priority. They don't tolerate jobs or neighbors or relatives. That family unit is a bond. It's unbreakable. And sometimes I would go to see these Indian movies. It was long, sometimes 2 hours, 3 hours, a lot of singing and thing. But we came out of the cinema. We came out from those movies with value systems, with morals, with ethics. And it was so strange that here we are learning values not from the Caribbean or Trinidad and Tobago or United States, but from India, where my ancestors came from. And it's movies like that, I think, that we need to bring again. We need, because some of these movies are becoming so much like the Western movies, like Hollywood movies, with, the people have all these muscles and they dress up differently. But I think we need to go back and look at some of these older movies from India where these family values are fantastic.
Yes, Dr. Jerome, I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that. Now, I'd like you to focus on this. Like you see, in the family, the system, as you've mentioned, the value system has to be brought back, or they should focus on creating movies with these values, the family system.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to bring your attention to 3 cases. The first case that I just, today morning itself, I happened to, while scrolling, view that. A particular person was jailed for more than 1.5 years, a male member, a husband. He was jailed for 1.5 years. The police implicated him in a murder case, that is the murder case of his wife, and he was put into prison. But after 1.5 years, they found that his wife was alive, having like lunch in one of the eateries along with a partner, new partner.
Right.
And that's a shocker, right? The wife is alive and he's been falsely implicated and arrested and put into prison for more than 1.5 years. Now, imagine what would be going on in his mind or in his entire thought process, suffering 1.5 years for no fault of his. This is one case that has happened in India, in Karnataka, in one of the districts in Karnataka. And another case, a woman killed her husband along with her partner, I mean her male friend, and cemented his body in a huge drum, and went away to some other state to buy goodies for their upcoming marriage, which they decided that they would tie the knot later on. And then later on, everything was out in the open, and they had to search for the body and break, that drum where the person was, cemented. That is another case. And another case like we have in India that occurred, I think, around 2 to 3 months ago. One person committed suicide. He gave his sad story online. Most of them know about him. So these are the very sad cases that are happening against men. And in another one I happened to see while scrolling is the wife slapping and punching her husband for not eating food and punching him on his face. It is really shocking. I, being a woman, it gives me goosebumps to think, can a woman be able to do this, or can a human being do it to somebody else? Now, in today's world, earlier too they were there. In today's world, what I'm talking about is women have become more cruel, taking advantage of the silence of men. So what I'd like to share now is, and ask you as well, men should start talking and opening up, speak up, don't be silent.
Yeah.
If you feel you're being violated by your partner or her family or by anyone, it's time to open your mouth and share it with the world and collect evidence. Now, I leave it up to you how you're going to share all of this from your end. What is your opinion on all these three cases? And what is the message to the men who are suffering at the hands of their spouse, and as well as from their family members? I mean, from their spouse's family members. Over to you.
Yeah. I think what you just said there was very sad. I know about two of the cases. I saw it on social media, and it shows where feminism has gotten out of control. The feminists are becoming more aggressive, more violent, and you can see that feminism is almost like a curse. I can't say it as, uncontrollable. It has a bad effect on society. So I think that a lot of times cruel women hide behind feminism. They're not feminists, but they're just violent and they say they're feminists. So I think we need to bear that in mind too. They give feminism a bad name. So what I have also want to bring to your attention, that it is something global. You might know about the Johnny Depp issue, the Hollywood actress and Amber Heard, where he actually taped her. So when men are facing these circumstances, they need to record it, have evidence on their cell phone or something like that. The cell phone is the most easily accessible device, or a camera, and they need to use this as evidence in the courts. Unfortunately, many courts are biased towards the woman. Sometimes the woman come with her testimony, and the judge, who is a man, and the lawyers believe the woman. So I think we also need to bear in mind that having testimony is critical and crucial to win the case. A woman's word in the court anywhere in the world holds a lot of weight. And I'll tell you something, I've been in contact with 4 NGOs, 4 men's rights groups in India during the last 5 years. And these men's rights groups have told me many of the problems that you highlight there. And they have also told me something which is very important: false rape cases. Many women, on an increasing note over the years, have been part of these false rape allegations, and many men are going to jail. They're committing suicide because their name, their character, their reputation are destroyed. They have lost their jobs. Their family ostracized them because of these rape allegations, which are untrue and false. So I think the government of India needs to have neutral people to actively investigate these cases. Many of the men are so overwhelmed. Sometimes, they are innocent victims, and these women, are sometimes psychopaths, sometimes have mental disorders, and they go after these men, and these men are victims. So I think we need to bear in mind that maybe we need more female therapists to help our women. Maybe some of these men could reach out online. There's a lot of online forum where men's groups have been developing chat rooms where men could express their emotions, their feelings. So sometimes men might be reluctant to go in a physical space, a building. Sometimes they live far away, they don't want to take the train, it might cost too much. But a lot of times on the internet, I've realized that there is a blossoming of online men's forum where you could go in there, chat rooms, and seek counseling, seek advice, get solidarity. And I am very surprised what is happening. I also want to mention that some of the problems that I'm dealing with for International Men's Day would be the divisions amongst men, men from the rural areas, urban areas, single men, married men, all different. And in India, one of the problems that is difficult to get unity amongst the men from the different caste. You all know India has a caste system for thousands of years. And sometimes many of the men from the upper caste, don't want to mix with the men from the lower caste. Sometimes men from one political party don't want to mix with men from another political party. Hindu men, Muslim women, all divided. And my message for men in India is to try to be united, to put aside your differences, put aside all these divisions, caste, class, politics, religion, and try to come together to help fellow men who are suffering. I know the history of India. I've studied personalities like Mahatma Gandhi. So I know that Gandhi has done a lot of work, but even the great Gandhi failed to destroy the caste system. Even the great Gandhi failed to bring Hindus and Muslims together. But I'm hoping that in the 21st century, there could be a campaign, a grassroots campaign, a campaign from the ground where we could try to eradicate some of these many divisions affecting the men. The men could solve these problems, but they are divided.
Yes, Dr. Jerome, thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for enlightening us on various topics which we are discussing today. Thank you so much. One thing which I'd like to bring your attention to is the online scams. Many men, including women, but now today we are talking only about men, focusing on men's mental health and men's rights. Many men are being trapped in the name of love and romance online, and crores of rupees have been, washed away or wiped away from their bank accounts. Not only the money has been, taken away from them in a very smooth way. They connect with them very nicely. They have a good conversation with them for a few months, and they get their, they win their confidence, and then slowly they start asking them to give them some money, and that continues. And one fine day they get to know that they've been cheated. Many online scams. I guess more of men are getting trapped than women. They are honey trapped in few cases, especially if it is like connected to the government or maybe the military or the armed forces. That they are honey trapped. Otherwise, the normal common people like you and me, are trapped online. Now, I want you to give a good message to all the men not to fall a prey to online scamming, especially with regard to romance. Because when we are offline itself, we cannot get a good partner. It takes a long time to, understand our partners and gel with them. How can one be so naive and, get attracted or attached, emotionally attached to someone online? When we can't get it offline, how can we try to find someone online? It's a bit like too childish or maybe foolish. I don't know. What would you love to share from your end? I would like you to give a message to all of the people, the male members.
Yeah. I would like men to be more cautious, to be very careful about that relationship, that romance that develops online, because there is a big difference between when you meet somebody face to face and online. And I think what men need to avoid is rushing into a relationship. Sometimes it's a superficial relationship. They see a photo of that person, and the person looks physically attractive, and they might have a mental problem. So I think the men need to be very careful about venturing into these relationships. Sometimes because it's online, there is more opportunity for the woman to be deceptive, more opportunities for them to, they could have married women, getting into these relationships. So they need to be very careful. They might have cruel intentions, these women. So the men have to be very careful. But it's something that it's difficult to change because it's something that is almost worldwide. And I'm also seeing where some countries are developing robots, female robots, so that the men now, they could go and they will start in the next 10 years, 20 years. They might have marriages with female robots, who knows? So we are living in a strange world where 100 years ago, we never had something called an online romance. Now we have the online romance and online scams. And I think men should be very careful about, wasting their money, wasting their rupees on these relationships that will not bear fruit. It is simply women trying to get their bank accounts bigger and just trying to deceive. And sometimes women are deceiving 10 and 20 men at the same time. It's not just one relationship. They have multiple online scams occur in one woman. So I think the men need to be very careful. It's not a one-to-one relationship. It's very unfortunate. I have seen reports in the newspapers, not just in India, but in other countries. It's something growing. It's something widespread. And I think the men need to be very careful, and they should try to choose somebody within your workplace or village or community or temple, and not feel there's this need. There's something, maybe they might feel it's something glorified or it's something nice, but I think they need to be very careful and double check any online relationship before venturing into it.
Thank you for that beautiful suggestion. Thank you for that lovely message. Dr. Jerome, we've had many complaints from women with regard to their husbands not ready to come in for counseling. And whenever they say, please do come for counseling, a family counseling or a couples counseling, or let's meet a relationship counselor because it's not going good between us. They disagree. Most of the men disagree and say, no, nothing is wrong with me. I don't need it, or we don't need it. So I would like you to give a good message to them and give a message, request them to come for counseling. If everything is okay, if you're in the right, please do go. Even if you're in the wrong, go for counseling.
Yeah.
Both of you go and see how you can sort out things. Over to you.
I think it's important for a man to know when the relationship is being destroyed or broken and a need for healing. And sometimes men don't see that. And the reason being is because men as boys have grown up with a sort of feeling of invincibility. They don't want to be vulnerable. And earlier I talked about boys not wanting to cry. And that is connected to men not wanting to get psychological help or counseling because they feel mentally they're strong. So that crying is a form of weakness. Seeking counseling, seeking help is also a form of weakness. And I'll also tell you what is connected. Many men are sick and they do not want to go to the doctor for surgery. They do not want to take medication because that is a form of weakness. So it's not just the mind needed counseling or therapy, but also the body. They also always want to believe that the body is strong. So strength is connected to masculinity. And I think this is why many men die prematurely with heart attacks. They lose limbs because of diabetes. Some of them go blind. Some of them, suffer because they neglect their health. And I think, I wish more young men and elderly men, old men, men of all ages would know when to go for counseling, know when to go for help, because in a marriage, in a relationship, seeking counseling is a good way to prevent a mental health problem. A lot of time we think mental health is just Alzheimer's or something like being bipolar, but it's not that. Mental health also deals with, a relationship where there is no communication or a breakdown in communication, right? So I think our boys and men need to know, especially the men, when is the best time and when it is the time to go for counseling a relationship. And what is very sad, often the women, bring up the idea of the need for counseling. 99% of the time it's the woman, the female, who says we should go for counseling, we should go for a talk, so it says something, that maybe there's a gender bias. Maybe we are bringing up our boys badly and they don't see the need for counseling.
Thank you, Dr. Jerome. Thank you for that. Now, what I'd like to bring your attention to is men, certain men, they don't want to give up their spouse. They want to play it safe at home and out as well. They want to enjoy, have the cake and eat it too.
Right.
Like, they want everything at home going smooth, and they want to enjoy out as well. And once, if it could be either genders, but today I just want to bring this to you because I want a message from you for the men. They won't allow their spouse, suppose they have somebody else out, they are attracted to somebody XYZ, and the wife asks for a divorce or a separation. They don't want to let go. They want to hold on to that wife, keep her as a doormat, at the same time enjoy out. I want you to give a loud message, a clear message to such men to let go. If you have met somebody nice and you're happy with somebody else, please let go of this woman. You need not harass her or keep her under your control. She may be educated, she may be uneducated. She may
Right.
be, having money with her. She may be even a pop. It's okay. If you have somebody else in your life, be dignified enough to let go of that person who you've been connected to earlier. Don't play double games. And this applies to both the genders. But I'd like you, being a man, I would like you to give a message to all the men in the world who would view this one day or the other, to let go, not to hold on, and to, enjoy it, want to enjoy on both sides.
Yeah, I think what you brought up there is very important, in that sometimes it creates violence within the home. It creates more tension when that relationship occurs, and it puts a lot of pressure on the female, to endure this. So I think that the men, they they give themselves a bad name. They give the men's movement a bad name when they commit this adultery, when they have this extramarital relationship or this outside relationship. And I think, that the men need to realize that if they're in a monogamous relationship, a one-to-one relationship, they need to maintain that. I know that some religions, I think Islam allows more than one wife. So that's different. Religion is allowing more than one wife. But if you're in a religion and then you're in a relationship where the understanding is it's a one-to-one relationship, I think men should maintain that for the sake of their wife, for their spouse, and also for the sake of the child or the children. Because if the child or the children see that, they will also duplicate that and continue that later on in life, because daddy did that or my father did that and it worked. So I think we need to bear that in mind. And also I should mention that when the men are in that relationship, it takes away money that should be going into the home for the money for groceries, for other items in the home, for leisure. It also puts the man at risk of getting a sexually transmitted disease. So I think he should also bear that in mind, that the man should have certain value systems and, stick with that.
Thank you, Dr. Jerome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this applies both to men and women. If you're not happy with your spouse and partner, please sit down, have a talk, get counseled in the right way. If you feel like staying together, you think you can work it out, work it out. If you cannot, please separate peacefully. Do not damage or cause more harm to each other. And I find you very honest, when you were sharing all of this from your end. Like, you are not supporting the wrongdoers. International
Yes.
Men's Day doesn't mean you're including everyone. The ones who are good, honest, and genuine. The ones who are not, of course, you seek counseling, you transform and come. You're accepted in our folds. That's what I understand what you're sharing. That you're very fair on
Correct.
what you're doing. You're very fair on what you're sharing. You understand that yes, men are being targeted in the wrong way in many ways, but at the same time, there are men who are taking advantage of, certain situations. So let's work on
Yeah.
building a beautiful future for one another. Let's heal the world, right? So now, what are your future plans? What are the other projects that you have in your, in your future thing? Like, what else, apart from the Boys' Day that is on May 16th, where you are focusing on? Is there some other project
Right.
that you are focusing on?
Yes, I started a few years ago a special day because I've realized that men and boys endure considerable violence that I spoke earlier about. And I saw that, there are a lot of activism and days discussing violence against women and children. And I decided on the 31st of January to have a special day, a day called the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Men and Boys. And this day has, been picking up some popularity, not as popular as the National Men's Day, but again, it shows that day I focus on trying to let the world see the hidden violence, the open violence against men and boys. And I've also said, that sometimes I feel there's a war against boys, a war against men, a war against masculinity, because there are all these stereotypes, negative images. They have all these accusations and allegations of men. Sometimes men are wrongly portrayed in the media. So on that day, I'm trying to see if we could find solutions to violence against men and boys, how we could highlight problems and find solutions. So it's not just about discussing violence and showing statistics, but how we could develop a framework, how we could develop strategies to counteract this violence against men and boys. And I'll give you a good example. For the last 2 years, I've been working with groups in Africa dealing with child soldiers, young boys who are recruited into the military to fight in the army, young boys as early as 9 years, 11 years, 12 years, who are supposed to be in school. They are carrying weapons, they're carrying grenades, and fighting a war, small wars, tribal wars. So I think it is a day in which, I would like to see globally observed, but it is gaining some popularity slowly but surely.
We are proud of you because you're focusing on solutions to reduce violence against men and boys. That's really nice. Instead of just talking and showing statistics, it's good to find the right kind of solutions to bring an end to violence with regard to men and boys. Now, Dr. Jerome, as we talk of violence now, there are several men who've been attacked by their partners or their family members. I mean, their partners' family members with acid, disfigured their face severely with acid. There are several cases. It's not only that men throw acid on women as a part of revenge. Even women are doing that with regard to revenge, that they can't, they can't get back their love, or they can't get them back into their, their what you say, into their family folds, or into the relationship back. So they have that much of hatred and grudge that they are ready to disfigure them. And several men are disfigured with regard to acid attacks. So what is the message you have for men who may be a target of revenge from their spouses?
I think it is very unfortunate. I have seen 2 incidents last year, and I was horrified to see that, women could do this to another human being, it's very frightening. I mean, I'm already horrified to hear about abortions and these issues, but to see that a man being disfigured, because I mean, when the acid hits you, you're not just disfigured, but you're ostracized. We live in a world with physical beauty, and once that face is damaged, sometimes you lose your sight. Sometimes not just that, but you lose your job. Your friends scorn you. You have to get for treatment. Some men can't afford plastic surgery. Some of them get infected and die because of the acid. So I think that the governments need to enforce stiffer penalties. Women need to be facing jail terms, maybe death sentences, for these acts. Of course, men also would be deserving of jail sentences if this occurs. So I think we need to find out how we could create deterrence. But there's also something that I'm working at for International Men's Day, and to prevent these acid attacks from happening at an early age, we need to allow boys and girls to respect each other. We need to allow a better relationship between the boys and the girls from kindergarten, preschool, primary school, universities, at the workplace. So it is something that has to be ongoing. We cannot just wait for acid attack and then say, let's develop a program. Let's develop some sort of project to prevent this. I think we need to have it as part of the media campaign, part of education system. We need to teach it, let the pundits and imams and preachers talk about this. So I think it is something that a public campaign is needed because I find that it has been on the increase.
We agree with you, Dr. Jerome. We agree on that. Now, what are the initiatives we should take if people like us would like to join you in an effort to create awareness among youngsters in schools, in colleges? So, if there are many people who would love to join you on this mission of creating
Right.
awareness with regard to men's rights as well as boys' rights and protection for boys, and I would like to ask you, like, how they can connect with you if they would like to be a part of your journey. Many youngsters and middle-aged people or senior citizens, if they want to be a part of this transformation, of this change, or be a part of the solution to the violence against men and boys. So, in what way they
Right.
can connect with you?
Right. Well, I have I have WhatsApp, I have email, which I can always share with you, and you could share with your viewers. But let me also provide them with the challenge that they don't really have to connect with me as such. They could create their own little forum online, just like what you have to get a message across. They could go into schools nearby in their village or their community to spread the message. They could go in their workplace and print posters, and stick it up in their workplace. So I think getting the message out is important. And every person should see themselves as an ambassador for peace, so that, I don't have that power to heal anybody or transform anybody. No, I can't do any miracles, but I think everybody could try to do their own little miracle by preaching that message of peace, that message of hope, inspiring people, and creating a better world. I think we live in a world where tolerance is absent or very low. There's a low level of tolerance, a low level of patience, a low level of understanding. So I think people in India and across the world could organize seminars, workshops. They could have a march for peace. They could have speeches in a park. They could have something online, but I think often face to face in their community reach a better audience and the message gets across. But I think it is very important that everybody come on board on this campaign because we have to win this battle. We are losing the battle right now.
Yes, you said that rightly, that we are losing the battle right now, because if anyone on their own creates a small forum or prints few posters and go to a particular school or a college and try to create awareness, the managements don't agree. They want it all coming up from some high level, and hence that person who has gone forward to make the first initiative or some type of a help or create awareness is being stamped, put down. So what I would love to share with all of you is, like, the big organizations that are there, including yours, the United Nations, or many other organizations connected to men's rights and focusing on men's mental health, should all join together. And you are the main thing, branch, like, or something, and you can allow others also to be connected to you, such that yeah, they can say, yeah, we have somebody over there who's at the top, and then they have instructed us to come over here. I've come on my own. You will be shown the door.
Right,
I've been instructed by so and so to come to so
right,
and so
right.
school and management. That's how it works, the system. Of course, in
Correct.
India, I don't know about other countries. So what do you have to say, share about it now?
I would be glad to give people that title of ambassador, to give that. I've also given titles to people across the world, not just ambassador. Some people want to work as a title of a high commissioner, a lower level. So just as you have diplomats and ambassadors, I've given people those titles: ambassador for International Men's Day, a high commissioner for World Day of the Boy Child. So they go out with that title. They and there are people who working in banks, insurance companies, in businesses where they would say, I've spoken with Jerome Teelucksingh, and 7 years ago, 8 years ago, he appointed me this ambassador, and that gives that person authority. So I have been speaking with persons across the world. I sent out letters. I give them certificates. I post medals. These are my personal expenses I'm using to do this to give them some authority. So you are very correct that sometimes you cannot just walk in into an institution and say something, but you need proof, you need evidence, you need a certificate. It's just like you go for a job, you need to see a certificate of passes, what subjects you pass. So I have been giving people written communication. Sometimes I scan a letter or I post it, and it's very effective. So of course, people could contact me via you, or they could contact me on the Google my name. They will see my email, postal address. I am available, I'm accessible, and I'm willing to help. And I've been translating other languages. So I've been communicating with people using translators in other languages, and I've been, you know, giving them that power, giving them that power to pass on the peace.
Thank you, Dr. Jerome. Thank you for sharing that. In case anyone would love to contribute to the growth of your organization or your work, so what could they contribute? What are you looking for? Like, is it their time, or is it the finances that you're looking into? Because see, without money, you cannot do anything. Without the time of, particular individuals, you can't do anything. So time and money plays a very vast role. So what are you looking, or what is your request to the public who may be viewing this one fine day or the other?
I would rather time, because I don't want people giving me money, because I am doing my own work here in Trinidad and Tobago. I have enough money to do work, but I want people, like, if you have 10,000 rupees, I want you to use that money to print flyers, have a workshop, buy refreshments, send invitations to a community, get your members out there. So I think, I don't want people saying, I want money. I want their time. I want their patience. I want their tolerance. I want we have to be on the same wavelength to create peace. So I really want people's time and understanding to get the message across there. And I know that, sometimes people get their company to sponsor. So the boss will not give them rupees in their hand, but the boss will say, you know what? I'm going to sponsor lunch for International Men's Day. I'm going to carry you all on a trip. A store might say they want to give 50% discounts on colognes for men on that day. A sporting store somewhere in the United States or Canada might want to give 10% off for International Men's Day. So these are the kind of promotional items that encourage men maybe to exercise, to be healthy. They might have some hospitals, I know, they do free blood testing, free blood pressure testing on International Men's Day. So an entire institution, the hospital, didn't contact me. They didn't ask me for any approval, but they were able to do something for men. So I think this is what we need, institutions and individuals coming together to push the Men's Day campaign, to push the boy campaign, to push the anti-violence campaign.
Excellent, excellent. We wish you more success in all your endeavors. More power to you, Dr. Jerome. We'd love to see many more Dr. Jeromes like this in the world, in every country, or maybe in every part, nook and corner of the world. We need people like you to focus on the right things and to support the right cause. Irrespective of gender we are speaking here, dear friends, it could be anyone who wants to do their very best should always focus on peace, justice, and harmony. Towards the end, would you like to share anything that I didn't focus or, bring your attention to? If you have something in mind, you could share that, please.
I would just like, people in India and across the world to be more positive. There's too much negativity in our world. There's so much despair. There's so much debt. A few years ago, 5 years ago, we have just come out of COVID, and we saw what that disease did in terms of not just death, but isolation. And I would like to see not just people be more positive, but more interconnectedness. We need to get back into being human beings. We need to bring back humanity. We need to bring back humanity into our world. We have become very cold and isolated. And I would just like to see people not just celebrate International Men's Day or World Day of the Boy Child, but throughout the year, I would like to see people becoming more interconnected, and not just with relatives, but with strangers, trying to help those in need, not just in India, but anywhere and across the world, because the world is becoming a more difficult place. We see the United States imposing tariffs across the world, and this could have serious economic repercussions and affect all of us. So I think I would like to see, more harmony and more humanity in the world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jerome. Thank you very much. With this, we'd like to sum up the session. We thank you for your time and expertise that you've shared with us. What I'd like to share with all the people who view this one day is like, every sinner has a future. No matter who you are, if something's gone wrong, you don't have a past which is good. You always have the chance to change. Like they say, every sinner has a future and every saint has a past or something like that. There's some type of a
Right.
quotation like that. So no
Yeah.
matter what happens in your life, there's always space for transformation and you can become the best version of yourselves. So dear friends, focus on peace, justice, and harmony. Focus on humanity. Just one line. Live and let live. That's the only thing I'd love to share, irrespective of gender. Let's be a part of this beautiful planet called Earth and save the environment and build beautiful bonds beyond geographical locations. Thank you so much, Dr. Jerome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. My dear friends, with this, we come to an end to the International Fab Talks for today. If you like what the International Fab Talk team is doing, stay connected with us. Please do like, comment, subscribe, and share to the International Fab Talks. Above all, prioritize peace in your family, prioritize peace around you, no matter where you are, in your workspace, at home, or in a public space. Prioritize peace, and this is one life. It's a gift, and let's live it to the fullest. We'd like to sign off now from the International Fab Talks. Stay blessed and stay connected. Thank you, Dr. Jerome. Thank you so much.